With 36 entries in the Intercontinental A class, over 1,000 horsepower would greet the green light at the start of each race. The big talk of the weekend was tyres. After being absent at round 1, Bridgestone were now back in the fight, along with Dunlop and Vega. Reigning Oceania champion Alan Gurr scorched around the 1100-metre Ipswich circuit to qualify fastest, and then went on to win 2 of the 3 heats. The other heat was won by Wollongong driver Jason Burns, who now established himself as a real threat for his first Intercontinental A round win. Burns then went on to win the pre-final to start the finale from pole position, alongside Gurr with Queensland's Chris Gilmore and Simon Richardson on the outside of the second row of the grid.
Alan Gurr's very quick. He won Oceania, obviously, just ahead of yourself. He's setting a fairly cracking pace. Do you think he can keep it going?
Yeah, Gurr's a good driver, so he'll probably be able to keep it going, so we'll have to get up to his pace to try and win, so that's what we'll have to try and do.
Burnsy's getting away fairly quickly, and was probably a bit of a surprise package this year. We may not have thought that he'd go so well on Bridgestones after doing so well on Vegas at the opening round. You reckon you're going to be able to get him?
He's quick and his tyres should be lasting. I think most of the Bridgestone drivers are, but I think in the last race we're a bit quicker than him. So I think if I sort of get on with it early and get a gap, it could be a good race, providing nothing mechanical happens.
You've got your former teammate and the man who won the Junior Intercontinental A Championship last year, Neil McFadden, not far behind you, and he's always hard pressure, but he seems a little bit off colour this weekend.
Yeah, it's not like Neil. He's usually pretty quick and consistent, but he's had a few problems. But I mean, everyone has a problem. You can't go a whole season without something happening, and I think it's really he's getting it over and done with early in the year. So I think by the final time, I think he'll be very fast and hard to beat as usual.
This should be a terrific race, the final in Intercontinental A, the second round of the Winds Australian Karting Championship. Let's take a look at the starting grid for you. Burns on pole, Alan Gurr outside of front row, then Gilmore and McFadden sharing the second row. James Small starting out of grid position number 5 in the arrow. Simon Richardson, Daniel Richard, then Peter Jenkinson, Chris Walton and Andrew Tomlinson in the Tony kart. He is the 10th qualifier for this finale. I'm joined in commentary as we take race cam with these cars preparing to do battle in the Intercontinental A final by former national champion Troy Hunt. We'll get them underway and hear from Troy shortly. Let's see how they approach the first left-hander. Gee, no place for the faint-hearted. Plenty of hard racing in there and a fair bit of fender leaning going on too as we go back on board with Matthew Wall and Troy Hunt in commentary beside me, as I said, and that was no place for the faint-hearted, as that vision graphically illustrates. It's pretty tough out there.
Yeah, definitely, David. I mean, with 36 entries, you don't want to give anyone a little bit of room. You give one guy a little bit of room, you end up losing 6-7 spots, you know. All these guys want to get in a good position for the first couple of laps and then make the move from there.
Burns, Gurr and McFadden, the top 3, back on board now with Matthew Wall. You might just have a listen here. Great vision. We've gone away from it. We'll come back to that shortly.
Yeah, you can actually see on the tyres here, you can see the tyres, the way they work and the way they wear on the race cam there. You can see the way, there's a lot of force on these tyres, and it's a long race, so a lot of these guys have got to look after the tyres and make sure the tyres are good and fast at the end of the race.
McFadden stepping up this year into Intercontinental A from the junior class, back on board with Wall now.
Yeah, Neil's just come up this year, and it's going to be a great experience for him to attack the championship with with guys like Alan Gurr that have had a bit more experience. There's a lot of great drivers in this field, so it's going to be very hard to win this year.
Simon Richardson in 23, you just got a terrific shot of him as he turned left. The tail of the machine came out, but he controlled it beautifully. Here's Wall again. We might just pause here and try and have a listen to his engine next time we go back to race cam. There's a slingshot move up the inside, and moving up another spot there, Peter Jenkinson, the Queenslander, in machine 27.
You can really hear the engine RPM lift as he comes onto the straight there. These engines with no gearboxes, what we have is you want to set the gear ratio up so that the revs keep on building all the way to the end of the straight, so you get maximum performance out of these 100cc engines.
Fantastic venue, courtesy of the race camp. Nothing between these drivers. They're almost inseparable on the racetrack. Look at this. A chance up the inside.
You can see Matt Wall there. He's set up that move as soon as he come out of the right-hand corner. He set it up and just followed Barclay Holden straight through.
You'd see a little bit of opposite lock correcting there as the machine got a little taily. Very simple machines in terms of the gauges or lack of, as you can see on the bottom left hand or bottom part of screen now anyway.
Yeah, probably a lot less gauges than what you used to see in most other forms of motorsport, but it gives you the basic things that the needs that a driver needs to know throughout the race, so he can maintain full potential of the engine and keep it running to its full potential.
I don't think it can be enforced enough, Troy, just how hard it is to drive these machines. It is not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's many things to think of while you're out there. One, they are very long races, so you've got to make sure not only you're fast at the start of the race, but you're also fast at the end. And it's a lot of things that a lot of drivers tend to forget. You know, they run the first half of the race really fast and tend to drop off towards the end. But you know, as everyone knows, the trophies are at the end of the race and not at the start.
Yes, it's all about being in front on the last lap, in the words of the legendary Jimmy Richards, who has often stated that philosophy. Gee, there's some terrific, some titanic action out there on the circuit. Trent Rogers in 1:26, getting a little sideways. Another move there as we saw Jason Hyronick.
You can see Jason, he's just moving up through the field. He just got passed by the New Zealand driver. He's come all the way out from New Zealand for this race. He was here at the first round also, so it's great to see a lot of the New Zealanders coming over to compete in our series.
Yes, Jonathan Reed, the New Zealander. No pulling the wool over his eyes, is there? A good move. There's the top three for you. Burns, Gurr, McFadden. It's been that way since the green light was switched on to send this field on its way in the final of Intercontinental A. And getting back to McFadden for a moment, making the step up this year, as I've already mentioned. He proved to be outstanding in the opening round at Bolivar Raceway in South Australia. How difficult is the transition from junior Intercontinental A to Inter A?
I think one of the biggest steps is you're dealing with a totally different sort of an engine, and also you're also racing against different competitors. So a lot of racing comes down to knowing your competitors, knowing what your competitors are going to do. It makes a hell of a difference. So I'm sure Neil will find it hard this year racing against people he's probably never ever raced against before, and getting to know those people. But he's obviously finding it quite easy himself at the moment. He's doing a great job and putting in a good result for his team and also for himself.
35 is Barclay Holden, a Queenslander. He's Tony Kart mounted, Bridgestone rubber. Once again here in Intercontinental A, it'll be about a 50-50 split between the popular tyre manufacturers, Bridgestone and Dunlop.
Yeah, this weekend was a big choice for a lot of people. At the first round it was all Dunlop because there was no Bridgestones available, but Bridgestone have come out with a fantastic product this time and put forward a good tyre, and it's proving that this weekend, you know, they come out on top. So, but I'm sure Dunlop will go back and get a new tyre and produce a good tyre for the next round. Looking
at the battle between James Small in 3 and John Green, driver of machine number 6. He's a West Australian. Small is a Victorian. And it's a bit hard to know where to look when you're calling these races. When they start to spread out after a handful of laps, there is battles happening all over the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely. You can see Matt Wall there with race cam. Well, there's been an accident. That's Ian Salvestrin and
Ian Salvestrin and Hoi Ling Bean, the little lady in the field, a Queenslander in the Swiss Hutless entry. And good to see both drivers emerge unscathed. And of course, Ian Salvestrin on our commentary team here for the Wins Australian Karting Championship, and he won't be happy with that. In fact, I think we'll struggle to get a word out of him next time he comes back into the box.
That's unfortunate. Them two, they'll go without points for this round, but the one person who won't go without points, that's Alan Gurr. He's struck out to the lead after an okay first round. Probably not as good as he would have expected, but this weekend he's just waited for the right time. He's got to the lead and he's driving away.
During the call of the previous event, the Junior Intercontinental A, Ian Salvestrin was talking about the toughness, the physical nature of driving these karts, and the fact that there'd be so many weary drivers towards the latter stages of the race. How bad is that, the physical factor?
It is quite bad. A lot of these drivers do a lot of physical fitness training during the week. Some don't, but obviously some do. And this track is very physical. This is probably one of the most physical circuits that you're racing all year. Eastern Creek is probably a good test for it. But as we see here, McFadden seems to be struggling a little bit here. He's dropping back through the field. It looks as if he's having engine troubles. He's putting his hand down to the carburetor. I'd say he'd be trying to add a bit more fuel into the engine, trying to keep it cool and just see what effects that'll do to the engine. It doesn't seem to be working. Obviously, he has some sort of an engine problem.
Bad luck for him, but he has had a pretty good run in the National Series, absolutely blitzing the field in juniors last year, and had an idealistic start to his campaign in Intercontinental A in the opening round. So he's a little lucked out this weekend, perhaps. We're giving you a look at most of the drivers in this field as our cameras drift back through the pack. Right now, though, we're looking at McFadden, who runs fourth on the racetrack.
That's also Daniel Richard in front of McFadden there. He's done a great job. He's been out of a go-kart for a fair while now. He went and tried Formula Ford for a while, but he's come back and he's put in a good effort to be up and running competitive in this sort of a field after being out of a go-kart for a fair while. That's a fantastic effort.
Gurr is your race leader in machine number 19, the Cosmic chassis kart, sponsored by Konica, Cosmic and ALP. All of these drivers are doing very well in terms of obtaining corporate backing. There's the top three for you. Not far to go now in this, the final of Intercontinental A, second round of the 1999 Wins Australian Championship.
Peter Jenkinson's also doing a great job there, sitting in third. It's the first Inter-A race for him for a very long time. I think the last time he might have raced might have been Oceania in '98. So he's doing a great job to be up in front, up in third position there with the DPE chassis. So in first, second and third we have three different chassis manufacturers here. So it's great to show the competitiveness of all these, of all the different chassis manufacturers, and that it's really anybody can win this, as we've seen McFadden win the first round in the top kart. Now we've got Gurr here leading in a Cosmic, Techno in second and AX6 in third. It's great to see a bit of variety.
Reminder, the next round of the Wins Championship at the Geelong Raceway in Victoria. Oh, problem there. One of the drivers has spun off the circuit and he's not very happy about it. Jason Burns, a New South Welshman in the Techno. He's okay. He managed to stay out of harm's way when all that happened.
That's Burns. He'd be very disappointed after that. There's only a few laps remaining, I believe, and Burns, that was vital points he just lost there for the championship. So as it shows, he's very disappointed.
I was just about to say, if you happen to live in the Victorian region of Geelong, or indeed in Sydney, where the final of this year's Wins Australian Championship will be staged at the new Eastern Creek facility, pop out and have a look at these boys doing what they do best. It is a fabulous category of motorsport, very close racing, and well worth a look. Last lap, meantime, in the final of Intercontinental A. It's all Gurr in machine number 19. The biggest thing he's had to contend with over the last 10 laps or so is terminal boredom. He's leading by that far, and there's the gap. It graphically shows you the distance between first and second. It would be 100 metres now, and Gurr is just cruising down to the checkered flag to take maximum points in the second round of the Wins Championship. He's just ambling around the 1100 metre Willowbank circuit. Up goes the right hand in delight, celebrating his victory, and he wins by a big margin. He'll be well pleased with that. We'll recap them for you. It was Gurr, the New South Welshman, then Jenkinson, home in second, Daniel Richard, Simon Richardson, Neil McFadden slipping back to fifth at the end of that, but he'll still accumulate some points. And there's the remainder of the drivers occupying top 10 positions. And let's now hear from our leading drivers.
It wasn't very easy, but with a few mistakes from other competitors, it made it a bit easier. But I mean, a bit of bad luck in the start of the day. All came together in the end.
Jason Burns was right on the money there early in the piece. Did you think that maybe he could go the distance, or are you pretty certain that it was only a matter of time until he got past?
He had a bit more bottom end than me, and it made it really hard to pass. But I thought if I just pressured him, try to force him into a mistake, hopefully he'd make one, but it sort of took a bit to do that. And it didn't really happen, so I thought I might try for a move and go for it, and it paid off, and he chased, and he made a mistake.
Neil McFadden's dropped down the order just a little bit now, and that should give you a reasonable points lead. Oceania Championship leading the points after 2 rounds, 2 to go. What do you think?
It's been a pretty good year. I mean, not much more I can ask for at the moment. I just hope everything stays together and for the rest of the year, but we're pretty happy at the moment.